Ladies and gentlemen, I'm just going to state the obvious. We have a doppelganger in our midst. I am disgusted at how much you have copied my husband. From the hair to the suit, do you not have any value or respect for originality? I personally found it absolutely artistically atrocious. I am embarrassed to be sitting here in your presence, having to even dignify you with an answer of my opinion.
If you were as terminally online and or as pop culture obsessed as I was back in 2015, you already know that moment. In a live taping of the New Zealand version of X Factor back in March 14, 2015, which is almost 10 years ago now to the day, up-and-coming pop star Natalia Kills extremely harshly criticized contestant Joe Irvine
for originality. You're a laughingstock. It's cheesy. It's disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. You have no identity. I can't stand it. I'm ashamed to be here.
For supposedly ripping off her husband's style, fellow X Factor judge and pop star Willy Moon.
As an artist who respects creative integrity and intellectual property, I am disgusted at how much you have copied my husband. From the hair to the suit.
With Willy Moon also joining in.
A bit cheap and absurd. I mean, it's like Norman Bates dressing up in his mother's clothing. It's just a little bit creepy.
The backlash was swift and immediate, leading to Natalia and Willy getting fired less than 24 hours after the incident, and online backlash and scrutiny that still continues to this day. Here are comments I just found from last week. Now, in this video, we are going to be talking about cancel culture and the impact of online backlash. But one of the major criticisms of this phenomenon is that it doesn't really work. People forget. Problematic influencers who've gotten cancelled still have large followings and platforms. However, this is one instance where people did not forget. Whatever burgeoning pop star career Natalia may have had, its momentum was stopped in its tracks by this X Factor incident. She would forever be branded as a narcissistic bully, among other choice names, and no amount of apologizing in the world could change that. I've always been fascinated with this event since it occurred back in 2015 because at the time, I had never seen so many people turn against a single individual. Ultimately, I want to ask whether Natalia and I guess Willy really deserved the hate and criticism that was thrown their way. I want to take a more zoomed out approach, detailing everything that was happening around this time. Were there other factors at play? And whatever happened to Joe Irvine, the actual victim in all this? Let's find out together. But first... That's better.
Just gonna state the obvious. We have a doppelganger in our midst.
Oh no! Oh no! Who do I shoot? The pop star formerly known as Natalia Kills was born Teddy Natalia Noemi Cappuccini in England back in 1986. She was born to a father of Afro-Jamaican descent and a Uruguayan mother. Between her dad being involved in shady business dealings and Natalia having darker skin and frizzier hair than her peers, she had a rough go of things, with people making fun of her. Stop. Okay, I know that some commenters will think that I'm like playing this backstory up for sympathy, like making you feel sorry for her, like boo-hoo, some of us had rough childhoods. We don't go around humiliating people in front of hundreds of thousands on live TV. No, I'm not bringing this all up as a crutch or excuse for her bad behavior, but more to explain the kind of individual who would say such horrific things to another person. I am an empath. Anyway, being a very rebellious teenager, she knew she wanted to be a singer-songwriter from a very young age, even securing her first record deal at 16 years old as the act Verbalicious. She had some minor success on MySpace, but was taken advantage of by her management and label who bled her dry, and she at one point even experienced homelessness. She also relays this concerning moment where she admits to trying to set a house on fire.
I set the house on fire with, I tried to set the house on fire with me and my boyfriend in it after an argument when I was 18. I just want to apologize right now too.
Okay, I'm definitely not condoning that at all. It's not cute, it's not quirky, but the heinousness of the act aside, I'm not going to be too judgmental on the adult version of the juvenile troublemaker. People do change, so moving on. Anyway, Verbalicious did catch on in LA, where she navigated a really tough Los Angeles music scene, getting the attention of will.i.am and his record label. She had some collabs here and there with acts like LMFAO and Far East Movement, and was even an opening act for tours with Katy Perry and Kesha. But as the rebranded solo act Natalia Kills, she released 2 albums, the first being Perfectionist in 2011. And as much nostalgia buzz as this album gave me, a lot of the songs just sound like what every song in 2011 sounded like, in my opinion. And also, there is some clear Lady Gaga influence in some of these songs, both of them using the same Cherry Cherry Boom Boom producer guy. I also listened to her album Trouble in 2013. Here, she trades her Lady Gaga influence for some Lana Del Rey inspiration, even having the same producers as some of Lana's early work. And I am afraid to inform you all that this album is a bop. It slaps, unfortunately. Yeah, if you are a pop head at all, this is a must listen. It's just a really solid pop rock album from start to finish. Natalia sounds great, and she knows how to craft a good, sticky hook. But I was most surprised by the lyrical content of the album. I was not ready for how dark and autobiographical some of these songs were, referencing her dad's shady business practices, her negative experiences in showbiz, and just overall her troubled past in this really raw way. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say that just because she released a few bops, she's not capable of doing terrible things, like it gives her a free pass. No, that's ridiculous. But the reason I bring up her music at all is because Trouble, the album, is just one of those conceptual, confessional projects that feels designed to cultivate a deep and adoring fan base who will follow you till the ends of the earth. And specifically, we would find this fan base on Tumblr in the early 2010s. So you can place Natalia roughly in the same category of artists like Lana, Marina, Sky Ferreira, Melanie, Grimes? I don't know. I'm a basic bitch boy. I wasn't on Tumblr too much back then. I'm not Sarah Zed. But I have been told that at the time, there were folks on Tumblr that were propping up Natalia as the next it girl. She was never big in the mainstream, obviously, but like Lana Del Rey, she could have been. Anyway, in 2014, she would marry fellow musician and New Zealand singer called Willy Moon, best known for a song Yeah Yeah, which was apparently catchy enough to get used in a 2012 iPod commercial. And using their combined megawatt star power, well, megawatt may be overselling it, their combined kilowatt star power, they were taken as judges for the second season of New Zealand's X Factor, joining judges from the previous season, Mel Blatt of the band All Saints, and Australian Idol winner Stan Walker. Now, this X Factor season had already started airing audition episodes, which for these kinds of shows are always pre-taped and spliced together in the editing room so they could, create a narrative that the producers wanted. But on the first ever live episode, when contestant Joe Irvine came out in a suit and slicked back hair to sing the Michael Bublé rendition of Cry Me a River, well, we all know what transpired afterward. Now, I think I need to make my official stance on this clear. In unambiguous terms, and don't misconstrue my words, commenters, Natalia Kills was in the wrong. Ultimately, she was responsible for her own actions, and to suggest otherwise would be very patronizing to her. While she may have been influenced to act a certain way, she should not have said those things to Joe Irvine in such a mean-spirited and cruel way in front of hundreds of thousands of people watching at home. And that 100% deserves criticism. Okay, I want that quote plastered on a billboard somewhere because now I may in fact be defending her a little bit. Okay, she's only human. I could just defend her a little bit. What? I'm an empath. Alright, so the main criticism that Natalia got was that she was being mean and cruel, which is very shocking indeed, because as we all know, by the year of our Lord 2015, there had never been a judge on a televised talent show that has ever been mean to a contestant. No, that's never happened.
Utterly horrendous. I'm being serious. It was as bad as anything we see at the beginning of American Idol. You know, where all the...
Simon. Okay, excuse the slight tangent, but I feel that we really need to talk about Simon Cowell because he represents a very, very important archetype in the modern TV talent show. The Natalia Kills that we saw may not have existed without the influence of Simon Cowell. Now, I dislike Simon Cowell, which didn't used to be the case. I watched so much American Idol as a kid. Like, yeah, Simon, Paula, and Randy, iconic trio, great chemistry, yada yada. Anyway, those early talent show episodes I watched so much of as a teenager, they were pretty brilliantly framed as far as Simon's meanness was concerned. A lot of those early audition episodes would show terrible contestants singing, and when Simon would inevitably humiliate them, it would show these same contestants having a meltdown, or losing their shit, or having an attitude, as if tacitly telling the audience, no, it's okay to laugh at them, because they were so clearly delusional, they deserve to be ridiculed. And in the live shows, Simon's trademark brutal honesty would be framed as tough love, like, well, of course he has to be honest. It's because he cares. How will the contestants ever improve and possibly get further into the competition if they don't get better, woo? But let's not pretend that Simon never took this way too far with his nasty comments.
If I was looking to hire a rug, I would hire you tomorrow. It's the way you look that's putting us off.
I'm a choir.
Did you eat them? For me, that's what I call a waste of time performance, because there was nothing I could take from that, other than it was dull. I think you're possibly the worst singer in the world, based on that performance. And I'm absolutely serious. And you look like one of those creatures that live in the jungle with those massive eyes. What are they called? Bush baby.
You are sick.
Okay, so those were obviously pretty bad, like even for the 2000s. One particularly notable instance I want to highlight, when season 5 Idol contestant Mandisa, who would go on to become an extremely successful Grammy-winning Christian singer, auditioned, Simon would mock her weight.
Have a bigger stage this year?
She's got like a Frenchie.
Forget
power.
Frenchy, she's like France.
Later on in the show, Mandisa said that this moment caused her to cry and selflessly forgave Simon to his face before he could even apologize. And in April 2024, she would pass away from complications relating to class 3 obesity. Okay, obviously there is no way he could have known about that, but it's just also galling in hindsight that this behavior was even tolerated. Okay, back to Natalia. So I don't think it'll come as a shock that a lot of reality TV is orchestrated and influenced by producers and other factors behind the scenes that we, the audience, are not privy to. This can go into extremely scummy territory. A particularly notorious example is when Zoe Alexander, and auditioning for the X Factor, was coerced by the producers behind the scenes to sing a song from the singer Pink if she wanted to be on the show.
That they wanted me to sing a Pink song. I wasn't instantly convinced. He basically said that if I didn't, I wouldn't be going on the show.
and then was rightfully pissed off when the judges told her on TV that she shouldn't have sung a Pink song.
Yeah, Zoe, I'm confused with the identity issue. You know, coming out saying you wanted an identity, then you sing Pink. I thought that the second song was much better.
And that was just the tip of the iceberg. There are 100 other infuriating and heartbreaking details to this story, including the show just straight up fabricating footage. Go watch Zoe Alexander's video for what really went down. So in Natalia's case, it's obvious that she was told from the very start to play the Simon Cowell type role of the mean judge, the one who's brutally honest, who tells it like it is, who wasn't afraid to get booed by the audience, but when she does show positive emotion, could be seen as, wow, so wholesome, woo. So the Natalia Kills, who called Joe Irvine a laughingstock and cheesy and disgusting, is already clearly influenced by the powers that be to act that way. That way, you could have maybe genetically engineered the same magic formula that worked for Simon, Paula, and Randy, each judge diligently playing their character or role that they were assigned. At the very worst, it took her existing personality traits and dialed them up all the way to 11. And you can kind of see this in some of the early audition clips from X Factor.
You'll be caught in the rain.
There are these things called consonants, and you don't sing with any of them. You're just kind of howling at the moon a little bit.
It's a no from me.
It's a no from me.
So that was kind of mean, right? Where was the outrage for that? Here's the thing though, if she had just been the mean judge, a role that Simon Cowell had already been playing for years, if she had said those exact words to Joe Irvine but criticized his voice, his dance moves, his stage presence, no one would bat an eye. No one would bat an eye. No, it's not that she was the mean judge. It was that she was delusional! If you were watching this for the first time, you'd ask, wait, did she really think that Joe Irvine copied her husband because he wore a suit and slicked back his hair? What?
Copied my husband. From the hair to the suit, do you not have any value or respect for originality?
From a viewer's perspective, it is ridiculously arrogant to think that your husband pioneered the use of suits and slick back hair in musical performance. Willy Moon is a pop throwback artist. He rips his style off from Michael Bublé and Frank Sinatra and all those guys. Natalia was being embarrassingly self-absorbed to think that that was a style that her husband would have a trademark on. It is, in a word, cringe. But guess what? That wasn't the same as bullying. So the thing about this whole moment is that the bullying mean side of it and the cringe self-absorbed side, they tend to get conflated with one another. Like when people talk about it, they say she deserves hate because she was mean, and she deserves to be ridiculed and mocked and made fun of because she was cringe. It honestly kind of makes her the perfect target. But there's potentially another side to this. Potentially. See, there's a lot of speculation online that this moment was staged, scripted, a publicity stunt. All of those words could mean many different things, so I kind of want to break this down. Natalia Kills has made it clear that she couldn't speak in detail with regard to the specific events, like conversations with producers perhaps, that led to this infamous X Factor rant because of a quote-unquote wide-reaching legal gagging order. Coming out with any relevant information could possibly result in massive fines, repercussions for her family, or even jail time. She's implied multiple times that if people really knew about what happened, she wouldn't have faced such negative backlash and people wouldn't have reacted the way they did. This is quite unfortunate and I do feel for her on that front. Now, before I say anything, I need to reiterate that I still think that Natalia was primarily in the wrong here, and she is still accountable for everything that she said to Joe. Everything I said earlier still applies. That said, I do want to see what I can gather. A few people have pointed out that Joe's style from his audition to the first live show was markedly different. Like, yeah, no shit, he was singing a Michael Bublé song, of course he would change up his style. But fellow X Factor judge Mel Blatt revealed Joe Irvine's mood board, which the show's stylist used to construct a contestant's look, included pictures of Frank Sinatra, David Beckham, and Willy Moon. Ooh. Additionally, in a YouTube video by Justin Matters, Justin actually gets in touch with a producer from the X Factor at the time who chose to remain anonymous, who was quoted with saying,
"We purposely instructed one of the stylists to make Joe look very similar to her husband, in hopes to get a reaction out of Willy, not Teddy herself. As someone who has worked in TV production, I feel that the intention was to get a reaction out of Willy, and that the producers did not expect for Teddy Sinclair to give her response that she did."
Now we realize that if all of that were true, there was an intentional push to make Joe's styling similar to Willy's. That is kind of surprising, and that does make me see things in a slightly different light. However, one thing that had me raising my eyebrow was when Joe's style was intended to get a reaction out of Willy, not Teddy herself. How are they so sure that this would get a reaction out of Willy? Like, if this was completely planned beforehand and Willy was instructed to act all offended and shocked, couldn't he have just said, "No, that sounds ridiculous, I won't do it"? And if this was so tightly 100% scripted, why did Natalia veer way off script to defend her husband's honor all of a sudden? Especially in such a callous way toward Joe. Look, we may never know exactly what happened behind the scenes, but if I were to speculate on things, I would guess that Natalia and Willy already came into the episode with this mindset of like, I am the mean judge, and they were looking for faults and critiques in each performance. And in fact, they may have even been tipped off to the fact that Joe would be aping Willy's style, even though it's not really much of an original style to begin with, and Willy and or Natalia were instructed to act miffed, maybe even a little salty about it. But I do not think Natalia and Willy were instructed to take it nearly as far as she did. I think when Joe was told by Natalia that he had no value or respect for originality, I do not think that this portion of the rant was scripted at all. I suspect Natalia and Willy were given a base set of commands by the producers, but they took it too far of their own accord. And one last thing, with all this guessing about how much was scripted and not scripted, one person who probably wasn't given a script was very likely Joe Irvine. The entire time Natalia and Willy are dressing him down, he just looks genuinely bewildered and terrified. I feel like if he had known that this was about to happen, he would have said something more clever or be able to assert himself a little bit more. Look at that face. I don't think you can fake that level of anxiety. After all this controversy, I still feel that he is a victim in this clip, no matter how you slice it. Again, all of this is speculation and we can never know for certain. However, this being a live broadcast seen by thousands across New Zealand and now possibly the world thanks to the wonders of YouTube, word spread fast. And the inevitable was about to happen. It's remarkable how in the 2020s, the idea of being cancelled is so widespread among public figures that nearly everyone just has this instinctual knowledge of what that entails. Specifically when anons on social media ostracize or shun others in the name of holding them accountable for their actions. Along with that, there is this widespread shared anxiety among public figures that they are one remark or one bad take away from having their career blow up. But in 2015, canceling was just this new thing that people didn't really know what to make of or how to deal with, and most especially, Natalia Kills. I feel like mere hours after the taping, Natalia already knew that shit was about to go down, but she didn't realize that shit was about to go down. Her first tweet, I believe from a now-deleted Twitter account, reads, "I love you guys. Thanks for your support and understanding my passionate opinions. You know what they say about me." Thanking your fans and not even apologizing or... bold move, Cotton. Let's see how it plays out. Her first post on her Facebook after the whole ordeal was this picture of smiley faces saying, Had the most fun at the live shows tonight. So many new followers. Love you all. Time to celebrate. Okay, so she's obviously trying for the tongue-in-cheek approach, like showing that, yes, I can laugh at myself, which would then carry over to a lot of her next posts, posting a still image from Natural Born Killers and Uma Thurman from Pulp Fiction, implying that she and husband Willy were styled like those characters. But the post that a lot of people remembered was when she would later post a picture of Dora the Explorer, of all characters, quoting herself, saying, "Ladies and gentlemen, we have a doppelganger in our midst. Dora, how dare you steal my look?" Following that up with another post featuring Louise Brooks and Elizabeth Taylor's Cleopatra, again implying that she resembled those characters. This actually mimics something that fellow judge Stan Walker mentions during Natalia's tirade.
But it's disgusting.
Cleopatra?
I just want us to appreciate how shameless Natalia's approach is. Like, with 2020's goggles, the idea of mocking your own controversy only days after, while it's still fresh in everybody's minds, it's crazy to me. Initially, a representative of Natalia's defended her, telling the Irish Mirror, "Natalia just speaks from the heart and says what she feels. That's just how she is." And asked whether she had any regrets, the representative replied, "No, she stands by what she said." Days later, she would maybe change her tune in what still remains her definitive statement on the entire ordeal. A lot goes on behind the scenes of a reality show, and what you see isn't always the whole story. The show brought me on to bring my passion, dramatic expression, and perspective. I was encouraged to be outspoken, and things got out of hand. Joe, I hope you can forgive me, and I wish you all the best. Be natural, unconventional, and be you. And then later on Facebook adding, "Once again, Joe Irvine, I apologize for the madness, plus I wish you success, plus happiness in the competition." Now, maybe it's just because I've spent a decade absorbing terrible YouTube apologies, if you can call some of them apologies. So Natalia's isn't the worst one ever, but it's still not the best. As a public apology, I feel like there isn't that much focus on what she felt she did wrong. Like, what is it exactly that she's apologizing for? What is the pain that she caused Joe? How does she plan to move forward from this as a better person? I don't know, I feel like it's just a little bit self-absorbed. Although it makes me think, maybe she felt that she was wrong, as she was just playing the part as instructed by the producers, possibly. Perhaps she didn't feel the need to be so candid with what she did wrong because she didn't feel that way, so she ultimately just felt duped by the higher-ups. But anyway, now it's time to look at the consequences. Pretty much immediately after that live telecast, the negative reception from the public was immense. A Change.org petition calling for Natalia and Willy to be fired from the show gained over 76,000 signatures. 76,000! That's approximately this many people. And take note, these are just people who caught wind of the petition. And it looks like very shortly after this, the production team behind the New Zealand version of X Factor relented, with then Chief Executive of MediaWorks Mark Weldon announcing their firing. Last night on X Factor, both Kills and Moon made comments that were completely unacceptable. While the judges on X Factor are expected to provide critiques of the performances, we will not tolerate such destructive tirades from any of the judges. We no longer have confidence that Kills and Moon are the right people to perform the role of X Factor judges, and they will leave the show, effective immediately. Even Billboard kind of ridiculed what happened in an article referencing the incident, titled, "6 More Male Celebrities Who Ripped Off Willy Moon's Look. Haha." The X Factor clip also drew flack from far more relevant pop stars. I cannot stop showing shade. From pop stars like Ellie Goulding, who said, "You sort of have to be, vaguely relevant to have your style stolen. Just saying." Simon Cowell, of all people, said it was hateful and it didn't even make sense. Wow, coming from such a deeply sensitive and empathetic guy. Some of the harshest comments from a public figure came from Lewis Walsh, a fellow X Factor judge of the UK version, who said, quote, She obviously has no class, no taste. She'll never work again, I reckon. Honestly, I mean, who's going to hire her? Nobody. But whatever the industry people said, it does not compare to the comments from the hundreds of thousands of regular folk on social media who saw this incident unfold on TV and, more likely, online. On screen, I'm now going to be sharing some of the worst comments that Natalia got, but imagine this times like 100. I mean, remember, 76,000 people signed that petition, and videos of this clip have reached millions of views. And also, a number of these comments are wildly violent and bigoted in nature, so if you think that that makes you uncomfortable, and honestly, it probably will, fast forward to this timestamp.
Get AIDS, fatty, die ugly. LAE has so many needle. Sharing is ready to and fill you with AIDS infested, you dumb slut. Hang this pig upside down and shoot her disgusting fatty face. Hope you get ovarian cancer so bad that you cannot have kids. You motherfucking stupid bitch cunt and your gay husband should be handed to ISIS and burned. No one cares you're a stupid ass bitch, go drink bleach. You are a sociopathic bitch and I hope a tiger eats you alive after you are raped by dirty Indians. You deserve it.
I just need to state the obvious. A number of these comments are anchored in this truly ugly kind of misogyny and racism, and that's super not okay. I would probably hazard, and this is wild speculation, that maybe 50% of the people who saw this clip were folks with progressive ideals and witnessed a wealthy celebrity misusing her privilege to belittle a regular Joe and wanted to see her get brought to justice. While another, 25% of people, whether subconsciously or not, saw an easy target in a woman of color and went from there. And a lot of people who fell in between. And keeping in mind, I can still think that what she did was wrong, like really bad, and she deserved criticism for the pain and humiliation that she inflicted on Joe. But this, what does any of this accomplish? I don't care who you are, where you're from, what you did. No one deserves that. Now, one of the unusual things about this case is that people never forgot about the X Factor incident. Like a permanent marker on a whiteboard, it has left an indelible stain on Natalia's career and brand. Which is kind of odd. Plenty of public figures have continued to have careers in the music industry despite having done way, way worse things. Why is that? I've seen some people suggest that it's because Natalia is a woman, and specifically a woman of color. I think that certainly informed some of the vitriol she received, and I think that was a factor. But I'm not going to sit here and pretend that there haven't also been white men, or black men, or white women who have also had their lives upended because of online harassment or people holding them accountable. No, I think the real reason why this moment has never been forgotten is because there was a video. And the fact that you do not need any additional context or clarification or caption to understand what is happening in said video, even if you're not familiar with the show The X Factor, you can easily intuit what is happening in this clip. And what anyone would see is this arrogant tormentor, hyped up on her own narcissism, picking apart an innocent-looking, fresh-faced man for seemingly wearing an obvious men's fashion staple. And if it reminded viewers of every mean girl who had ever picked on them in high school, I do not blame them. In this clip, Natalia and Willy come across like these phony, hypocritical, out-of-touch showbiz types that are just so easy to hate. This 2-minute video has this children's fable-like quality of good and bad, who should be labeled the bully and who is the beleaguered victim. Darman could not have written a more on-the-nose black and white morality tale. The Bible wasn't this clear with who the good and bad guy was. But there's a catch with all this. It's not a satisfying watch because the bad guy in this video never gets their comeuppance. The villain is not punished in this clip. Well, that's not totally true. In that clip, fellow judge Mel Blatt provides a retort to Natalia's tirade that is almost as iconic as the tirade itself.
Actually, better than her husband.
Thank you, Mel.
I don't think many people have believed in you in your life, but I tell you right now, I believe in you.
Thank you, Mel.
Have got
Thank you,
what it
Stan.
takes.
But that is little solace compared to the pain that was already inflicted onto Joe in that moment. There is a lack of closure in that clip that leaves the viewer hanging with this pent-up emotional response that needs to be conveyed, like, Jesus Christ, lady, do you not realize how delusional and self-absorbed you're being right now? And so that is why this clip will never die. If you had watched this for the first time 10 years ago, or yesterday on TikTok or whatever, it still has that power to elicit that same emotional response, that same outrage. This will forever define Natalia Kills in the public eye. Oh, and Willy Moon. Oh yeah, wasn't there another guy in this story? Yeah, that guy. That guy. The guy who invented suits, right, I remember. So it feels like Natalia has gotten the brunt of the online hate, primarily because she was the first to speak out between the two judges, despite the fact that his rant was actually, in my opinion, way more over the top and vicious than Natalia's was.
This feels a little bit cheap and absurd. I mean, it's like Norman Bates dressing up in his mother's clothing. And I feel like you're gonna stitch someone's skin to your face and then kill everybody in the audience.
Damn, am I really giving Norman Bates right now? Why, she wouldn't even hurt a fly. And remember, according to Justin Matter's video, the producers were trying to get a reaction out of him. But despite being the whole reason that this happened, there's not a lot of discourse of this moment that revolves around him. So I listened to the one album that he released that's publicly available on Spotify, Here's Willy Moon. There's a couple of songs I enjoy, like Railroad. But overall, I just found the album decent. Which is weird for me to say, because I usually love this kind of throwback pop. Amy Winehouse may be my favorite musician of all time. One of my favorite recent singers at this point in time is Stephen Sanchez. But Willy's album is like... I mean, for a jazz album, it actually does some weird stuff with the vocals, which is kind of interesting. It's distinct, at least. She said she loved me now. But persona-wise, he really just reminds me of like hipster Robbie Williams, or 2010's answer to Jimmy Ray. Except Robbie and Jimmy were way hotter than Willy was. But why am I bothering with any of this? Believe it or not, it's not because I want to kick the guy while he's down. Looking through discourse about this case, I'm seeing quite a resurgence of fans defending Natalia and even reevaluating her music and career, making her out to be a misunderstood pop savant set to take the fall for a cruel industry. Like her music was just too great, too unignorable to brush aside by fans. However, looking through the comment sections of Willy's music videos, I have not seen that same compassionate lens aimed toward him. I think because his persona is just not as compelling. I haven't seen any Willy Moon stans rushing to his defense. And also, pop music subcultures online, where a lot of Natalia stans come from, tend to be slightly more dismissive of straight white guys than they are with women, I think. I'm not sure. But anyway, let's move on to the most important man of this story, Joe Irvine.
And what brought you here to X Factor today?
Just wanting to do something for my life. Just be someone I know I can be. Yeah.
That's good.
It totally shocked me because I was told I couldn't do it my whole life. And now I proved to them I can.
Joe has also been through a lot in his own life. He was always a misunderstood kid, a bit of an outcast, even had thoughts of taking his own life. Just like Natalia, Joe moved out of his home at 15 years old, living in caravan parks or his car for the next 5 years. In an article by Duncan Grieve, Joe was quoted with saying, "I lived my life, or tried to. A lot of people used me because I'm really nice. I'm a really good fella. A lot of things happened to me. I used to drink just to cover my pain." He started singing and going to church, and eventually auditioned for the X Factor. And then the first live show happened, and well, we all know what went down. Immediately following the, let's face it, deeply distressing X Factor incident that was aired live in front of hundreds of thousands of viewers, there was obviously a huge wave of public support coming Joe Irvine's way, most notably from New Zealand's most famous singer, Lorde, who sent him cupcakes, as well as a card with a very sweet and heartfelt message, as well as a public message of support coming from Ed Sheeran. Even though Joe would be eliminated from the X Factor shortly after finishing 8th place, he would come out of it likely the most widely known contestant that season, touring and performing around New Zealand. However, a little after a year of the incident, Joe Irvine still declared that he was traumatized by what happened. Quote, "When it happened, I was mad, but I was aware kids would be watching, so I fought back the urge to have a go at Willy and Natalia. It was awful. I wish her and Willy well. I just hope that they never do anything so stupid and uncalled for again." And despite the public show of support for a moment, that obviously would not last. Joe says he is disappointed that he did not receive much support from the makers of the TV3 reality show after the shocking verbal attack. "I got no assistance from anyone afterwards, and it has left me thinking reality shows are just staged for a big publicity stunt." And that's the problem, isn't it? When a studio tries to manufacture and then commodify drama with real people's feelings involved, everybody gets hurt. Everybody becomes a victim. I believe the production company should have been more forthcoming with their role in pushing Natalia to behave so badly, and should have offered more behind-the-scenes emotional support to Joe Irvine in dealing with the fallout from all this. Joe did end up releasing a Christmas album in 2015, and to date, it seems like that's the only musical project from Joe that was readily accessible online. He says that he would write a song called Addiction about his X Factor experiences, but if he did release it, it may as well be lost media because I couldn't find it. I looked at his Spotify and he has a total of 5, yes, count that, 5 monthly listeners. I don't know if he was just massively screwed over by the label, or maybe he just decided that the quasi-celebrity musician life just wasn't for him. It's not like I can ask him, since I couldn't find any active social media presence he has as of now. It's fair to say that in the long run, he really did not materially benefit from the infamous X Factor moment. And to put myself in his shoes for a moment, I'm an empath! If I were him, I don't think that I would appreciate my entire persona being boiled down, condensed into a single 2-minute video where I am just a poor, helpless victim. Like, no, I'm way more than that. And I feel like this is also true for Natalia and Willy as well. Speaking of those two,
Don't drink the Kool-Aid, drink the Kool-Aid, don't drink the Kool-Aid, drink the Kool-Aid.
as a public figure, Natalia would rebrand to Teddy Sinclair, Teddy being her birth name and Sinclair being her husband's last name that she took. Some people accused her of rebranding just to escape the stink of the X Factor moment. Well, she has rebranded before from Verbalicious to Natalia Kills, so that isn't too out of the ordinary. But even if she did rebrand to get away from the X Factor moment, so what? I would too. As Teddy Sinclair, she formed the band Cruel Youth with her husband. They released some singles sporadically through the years and an EP in 2016 called 30mg. It's a lot moodier and darker and even edgier than a lot of Natalia's past work.
The valley of my vices.
Sonically, this may actually be my favorite thing I've heard from Natalia and or Willy. I really like how Natalia sounds in this record, but knowing that this was made in the wake of such a life-altering controversy, it adds a whole new, unsettling, eerie vibe to the music. It works, but I just think it's such an uncomfortable listen for me. As a songwriter, Natalia, now going by Teddy, has put her knack for making great pop hooks to good use. Even before the incident, she helped write a song for Madonna called Holy Water that was on Madonna's album Rebel Heart. A song she wrote for Rihanna's lauded album Anti, called Kiss It Better, got nominated for a Grammy. Teddy and Willy have songwriting credits for a song by K-pop group Blackpink called The Happiest Girl. So it seems like they're doing fine career-wise. Unfortunately, in May 2021, Teddy and Willy had a tragedy occur when their apartment burned down in a 5-alarm gas fire that took 200 firemen and 12 hours to put out. They lost nearly everything, and 2 firemen had to be rushed to the hospital. So you can just imagine that everyone, especially strangers, were extremely supportive and sympathetic, regardless of Teddy's and Willy's past, and offered only words of support, right? Well, let's read some comments now.
Damn, karma is out here doing the job even years later. Purposely well-deserved. I'll know how tragic, very tragic karma definitely got ya. Well-deserved to the bullies couple. Oh dear, your poor husband suits all while you reap what you sow, dear. Serve you right, goddammit. That's karma for ya. Shouldn't have all those horrible things to Joe Irvine. Fuck. Why couldn't that fire help us put more trash out? Wonder why the both of you didn't burn at that fire. How does it feel to know that not a single soul cares?
Guys, seriously, what are we doing? All their possessions were lost, people were injured, and like, if a statute of limitations were a thing for bullying, then wouldn't 6 years be more than adequate? What is being accomplished by saying these things? Come on! So in this video, I'm not running defense for Natalia because I necessarily like her as a person. My opinion on that doesn't matter. And for that matter, if you still don't like Natalia after watching this video, that's totally fine. And also, setting her then boyfriend's place on fire, even as a teenager, I still haven't forgotten that. Some of the music I discovered while researching this video has been fantastic, but that's not why I felt the urge to talk about this either. Reality TV to this day is still going strong, but I don't think we realize just how much of it is orchestrated and planned out behind the scenes, reducing real, complex individuals to caricatures to build a narrative or manufacture drama. This same system compels folks to act really nasty and humiliate people in front of others, possibly coming from pressure from the higher-ups or the audience. Luckily on YouTube, nobody has ever hurt anybody for views, so we're safe now. We don't usually notice this on TV, but in this case, someone took it way too far, and someone ended up getting unfairly hurt. The whole thing exploded. In her video about the incident, Zoe Alexander astutely points out that Natalia correctly identified all the online hate comments against her as bullying. But she did not register that the way she treated Joe was also bullying, as evidenced here in this tweet. But criticism and stage TV drama are different to really bullying, the racism and rape death threats over one TV moment. Arguably, the only entity to benefit was the show, who got a massive boost in ratings following the incident. We just need to be more aware that what we see on TV is never really the whole story, not excusing genuine bad behavior and cruelty. Lately, especially in more progressive and hyper-queer online spaces, I have seen a resurgence of support for Natalia Kills. Possibly because her songs are bops, possibly because the doppelganger copy pasta is just so batshit insane that it reverts back to becoming remarkable. And lastly, I just wish we heard something from Joe Irvine, like anything really. Anyway, kids, don't threaten people, but also, I am the only person to have short dark hair, thick frame glasses, and a round face, and nobody else is allowed to copy me, because if you do, you will show the world that you have no respect for originality, and that you will be a laughing stock. Thank you so much for watching. I know this was kind of a weird topic, but I was just always fascinated, fixated with this incident, and I just knew that I had to make a video about it, and I'm just glad that it's out there in the world. If you're a new viewer, I make videos on the weird intersection between the internet and pop culture, and if that interests you, I have 9 other videos you could check out. Oh, and I, of course, have plans for upcoming videos, so click subscribe if you wanna be notified. And for my returning viewers, hi! I have things planned for the month of March, 2 videos will get done in that time, and I'm just really, really glad that you're still here. Either way, I really appreciate you for sticking till the end, and thank you so, so much. Bye-bye.